Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today it's episode 2 of Topical Tuesdays, and I'm going to be discussing a very serious issue today. I will have already put a trigger and content warning in the description, but I'm just giving you a trigger and content warning now. I'm going to be talking about assault of different kinds, and I'm also going to be talking about Sarah Everard in a little bit of detail. It's not going to be gruesome, it's not going to be much, because I want my channel to be light. I don't want to be discussing things that are too serious because I don't have enough information and I don't have the correct education on subjects, I feel, to be able to discuss them in the way that they deserve to be discussed. But I certainly feel that it's important, whatever size your channel is, to talk about issues that are difficult, and also just to make yourself feel uncomfortable to make things better in the future, hopefully. Also, it is Topical Tuesday and this is a subject that is very topical, so I feel like this is the right time to discuss this. And yeah, hopefully tomorrow's video will be a bit brighter. If you don't feel like sticking around to see this video, if it's not good for you to watch things like this, then please do click out, and I will see you again tomorrow. I have a lot of other videos which are a bit lighter. I'll leave a playlist down below so that you can see those. But yeah, thank you very much for watching if you do watch, and I hope that this is helpful and educational to those who need it. I also put on my Instagram story, did you guys want me to be doing my makeup whilst I'm discussing it? I find it a lot easier to talk about topics that are so serious whilst doing something a bit lighter, just to pepper it with a bit more light so that it's not so difficult to discuss these things. And the majority of you, I think it was 90% of you, said that you wanted me to do my makeup. So I'm very sorry if people don't want me to and you find this offensive. I don't at all mean for it to be insulting. I'll try my very best to make it more about the content, but if it helps people to talk about these subjects whilst having something a bit lighter to distract them, then I hope that that's helpful for you guys. But yeah, I'm going to stop waffling and I'm going to get into it now. I do have some notes because I wanted to take this video very seriously and I didn't want to misspeak, and I wanted to be as prepared as I could be to discuss the issues that I'm going to be discussing today. I'm also going to be discussing the sexual assault as SA. Because I'm fully aware that some people don't know what's triggering to them until they face it, and I certainly don't want to be the cause for anybody to really struggle with me constantly saying that phrase. So I'm going to be calling it SA just to make it slightly more palatable. Not that this conversation is palatable at all, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to be as informed and as aware of people's feelings as I possibly can be. So I felt like that was the best thing to do. So just so you guys know, if this is a video that you're interested in watching or if it's going to be helpful to you to learn anything, I've written down some bullet points of what I'm going to discuss. There's going to be 3 key topics that I'm going to be discussing. Firstly, I'll be talking about why I feel like this case in particular is getting so much attention, particularly in the media, when in the last year over 100 women have died at the hands of men. Obviously the Sarah Everard case is getting a lot of traction, and I know that some people wonder why it's getting so much attention. So I'm going to be discussing why I think this particular case has got so much attention and has got the conversation being talked about so much. The second thing I'm going to talk about is why men in particular, but anyone saying not all men, is equal to all lives matter. And though true, directly or indirectly, they are contributing to the problem, in my opinion. And thirdly, very minimally and not for very long, because fortunately I've been so fortunate in my life that I haven't had to face many of these issues, but I'm going to be discussing my experience with SA and with assault and harassment in general with men. Like I say, I've been extremely fortunate to not have to face too much, but obviously you guys know I came from a cult and there is an awful lot of harassment that happens in places like that. I'm going to try to more focus on general because I know that not everyone's going to experience that. That's a very niche area, but I think it's important to discuss how those things have affected me growing up. And even though I think it's just important for people to know that there isn't a particular kind of woman who gets harassed, I think that I'll go into it more later, but obviously I'm very tall. I don't think that like necessarily matters, but clearly when it comes to assault of any kind, I'm a lot bigger of a frame, and I don't know if this is the right way to discuss all of this, but I just want people to know that anyone can be harassed. There isn't a particular kind of woman who is going to be harassed based on how they look. It can be anyone, and of course it can be men as well. But we're mainly discussing at the minute women. That's what the conversation is around at the minute with Sarah Everard, is the risk that women face. So of course when I say this, I don't mean that it just happens to women, because we all know that that's not the case. I am going to be exclusively talking about women and assault today, because I don't feel that I have the knowledge to discuss men and assault, because I'm not a man. So I'm going to be discussing my experiences with it and my feelings about this whole situation. This whole situation and subject, and why I feel like it's got so much attention at the minute, and that's what we're going to get into now. So personally, I feel like the main reason that the case with Sarah Everard has got so much attention, and needed attention, and it's a conversation that we need to have, is because there has been so much discussion around police corruption and police brutality. But I do feel that for a lot of people, particularly white people, it's been very impersonal, because it's not something that we necessarily experience as much as minorities do, and particularly with America. But we have awful police brutality here, and I think that the vigils and the violence surrounding that is proof of that. We're all very selfish, and we can't really properly sympathise with people unless it's happened to us. And of course we can be allies and try and fight for Black and minority rights and their lives, and Black Lives Matter is such a wonderful movement, but I think for a lot of us it is impersonal. It doesn't directly affect us. So I think that this case is a staunch reminder to a lot of white people, and particularly women, that those who swear an oath to protect you are not always going to do that, and there is corruption everywhere, and where there is authority there is corruption. And I strongly believe in the justice system, rightly or not. I do believe that there are good police people out there. I think that they do a great job, but of course there are awful people out there, and because of the power that they wield, when they are corrupt, it's so much worse than a normal person being corrupt, because they can get away with murder. Literally, I'm not laughing because it's funny. It is getting away with murder, and they do. Breonna Taylor, we're a year later, there's still no justice. We're only just going to trial with George Floyd. I'm aware that it takes forever, but come on, like, there's just so much corruption happening. And I think for a lot of us, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, those were in America, this is happening here. I also was trying to do some research, and I know that this case is in its infancy, so there's lots of things that we don't know, but from what I can see, it doesn't seem that there was a previous relationship between Sarah Everard and Wayne Couzens. It seems that they didn't know each other. So I think that that is a huge reminder to women. It's like a reminder of our mortality, that, oh my God, that could so easily have been me. That could so easily have been my sister, my cousin, my wife, my mother. It could have been anyone. And I think that that is where this is all getting so much attention, because it's an issue that women have known for so long. We all know how it feels to feel at risk from men. And I'm going to get into the not all men, but it is an issue, and it is an issue that needs to be discussed, and no one should feel silenced by men feeling uncomfortable about us having this conversation, because a lot of white people feel uncomfortable with Black Lives Matter, but it is an issue. We are only feeling bad and feeling uncomfortable because we don't like discussing topics like this. But that's why these things have gone on for so long, is because we feel uncomfortable and we aren't discussing these things. Of course, I also think there was a lot of people at the vigils because of respect, you know, because they want to show their respect. I'm not going to go into the police behaviour at the vigils because I don't need to. It speaks for itself. It's disgusting, regardless of whether they were lawfully there because of the pandemic or whatever reason. The way they handled it was disgusting. And I saw such massive parallels between the suffragettes and their protests and the vigils. why 100 years later has it not improved? Why can't people protest? They were all wearing masks. So if that's your issue, they were all wearing masks, and you go to fucking Sainsbury's. So don't start saying to me that people can't protest or have vigils, because it's ridiculous. If you're all getting ready to go to beer gardens in less than a month, then I think people can have vigils for violence against women. I feel so passionately about this, and I don't want it to become an hour-long video of me losing it. I want this to be a helpful, educational video, but come on, that is ridiculous. And if that is your reason why you're angry at people for having vigils, then you need to educate yourself. I can't help you. You need to educate yourself, because that is absolutely ridiculous that that is your reasoning behind why that was acceptable for the police to act the way that they did. Next, I'm going to be discussing not all men and how unhelpful that is. We all know that we don't like having difficult conversations. The fact that BLM resulted in people saying all lives matter shows that we don't like to discuss these things, and we use things like all lives matter and not all men as a defence against us having to personally deal with issues that are colour or our sex or our sexuality. All of those things, it's something that we can hide behind, that I'm not directly doing it, so why do I have to feel bad? So clearly I'm not a minority. I'm also not a member of the LGBTQ+ community. I am a cis woman and I am heterosexual. So I am in no way a member of that, and I would never claim to be a member of that community, because I feel like that's insulting, and I am not. But I am an incredibly staunch ally of the LGBTQ+ community, and also Black people and minorities. I try incredibly hard to make my voice heard and to show my support for these issues. I feel like with issues like this, with Sarah Everard and Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ+ community issues, people feel uncomfortable. And when people feel uncomfortable, they become defensive. And I think that, of course, everybody knows not all men. Everybody knows all lives matter. There's no reason to say that. We aren't saying that all men are monsters, but by diminishing our experiences by saying not all men, you are part of the problem. Because if women feel like they can't discuss these issues without you coming in and saying, well, not all men, then how are we supposed to have difficult conversations? I saw something yesterday which is so true, that said your silence is deafening. Men who don't make a stand, who have such an opinion on topics, who have a platform and have opinions on topics and don't make their voice heard about this issue, are part of the problem. And it's too late to wait until it affects your sister, it affects your daughter, it affects your wife, your partner, your mother. It's too late to wait until it affects you personally to have an opinion. And I've had loads of conversations with Brandon about this, because he obviously knows that there's an issue, but he does feel uncomfortable with it being discussed. And I'm like, well, that's part of the problem. That's why women don't feel that they can discuss these issues, because men feel uncomfortable. And I'm fortunately being able to discuss it openly with him, and we've had some really great discussions about it, which I'm really pleased about. But I wish that men were more open to hearing it and not just shutting off and being like, but it's not me, so I don't want to hear about it. Because yeah, it makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm a woman and I feel uncomfortable talking about essay and issues like that, because I don't want to think about that. We all want to go through life and pretend that everything's rosy, but it isn't. And this is an issue that affects all of us. Men can be assaulted as well, and for them not to have an opinion just because at the moment the narrative is about women says a lot. I just feel like men not having an opinion is worse than men voicing their opinion, because people are allowed to have different opinions. You're allowed to debate. And I would rather have a conversation with somebody about this than them be like, I don't give a shit, I don't care either way, because it is a massive issue. And the fact that people don't want to talk about it and don't want to feel uncomfortable is a huge part of the problem. So as I said, I'm now going to discuss briefly my experiences with SA and harassment in general. Like I said earlier, I've been really fortunate. I haven't had much experience with it at all, but I have had some experiences and I just want to share those with you. So my main experience that I can recall, I was about 17. It actually happened in another country, and it is a country where, unfortunately, the religion there doesn't teach a massive amount of respect about women. But I was about 17 and we went on holiday and we went for a massage. There was me and my sister, my two brothers who were maybe 4 and 5 at the time, my nan and my mum. So it was clearly a family holiday. It wasn't like a load of girls just going on holiday. Not that that would be a reason for anything to happen anyway, but it was clearly a family holiday. This person didn't know my age. I've always looked a bit older, but this person worked at the massage place. So we walked in and I was blonde at the time. And in this country, that's very rare. They don't really have blonde women there, particularly at the time, they didn't really have blonde women. So when they see English girls with blonde hair, they always have some kind of assumption as to the way those girls will act because of girls going over on holiday and girls being able to do whatever the fuck they want. They will then assume, oh, we can just take whatever we want because these girls are easy. So we were having this like massage thing, and I went in with my younger sister for her to have a massage, and I was having a massage. I think it was a shoulder massage, I could be wrong. And one of my sisters was having a pedicure, and she had this guy doing a pedicure for her who had been like making jokes and being like, oh, I'm in love with Beth, I'm in love with Beth, while we'd been there. And it was funny, you know, like we were all laughing about it and we found it funny. And he then said to my sister, oh, where's Beth? And she said, oh, she's getting a massage in there. And he said, oh, I need to get someone else to finish your pedicure because I can't have someone else touching Beth. And she was like, that's really funny. Like, obviously assumed he was joking. He then went and found someone to take over her pedicure and came into the room to do my massage. So I was having the massage and I heard the door open and close, and I assumed someone was like coming in or going out or whatever. And then I felt the guy put his hand down my bikini, like, and start massaging around my nipple. And I was like, what's this guy doing? So I looked up expecting to see the guy who had been doing the massage before, and it was this other guy. And I froze. I didn't know what to do. I felt so uncomfortable. It started to hurt and I like winced a bit, and he was like, just made some very inappropriate comments. And of course, you don't expect people to know your life, and I don't expect him to know that I was a virgin. I had never been in any kind of relationship with a guy because I was a Jehovah's Witness, but clearly I was on a family holiday and I had not consented to this, and my 11-year-old sister is in the bed next to us having a massage as well. Like, this is not the time to be touching my breasts and making sexual comments to me. So that was awful, and that was my main experience with sexual assault. And to be honest, it really affected me. I have a thing now where no one can touch my shoulders. I have really serious back issues and I need to like have a serious massage. I've had one once in the 10 years since that happened, and I was like this the whole time. Like they couldn't get the knots out of my back and my shoulders because I was like this. And Brandon will tell you, if he comes up and like touches my shoulders, I'll be like this. I can't have people touching my shoulders. So even one isolated experience that was maybe in the eyes of some not a particularly traumatic experience had such an effect on me growing up. And I wasn't even that young. I was 17. You know, this happens to people when they're so young, and I just feel like it's something that we kind of just put to one side and ignore and pretend like it didn't happen. And you know, when I'd always make jokes about this guy and be like, it was really funny, blah, 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 and I would never tell people what had actually happened, and I kind of blocked it out of my mind. And people are allowed to experience things and then with time realise, actually, I felt uncomfortable. There's so many times when women don't give consent and just are silent, and men are like, well, that's consent enough. The absence of no does not mean yes. I think as well, a lot of girls experience people telling them how to dress, and that being kind of like oh, well, what do you expect if you wear this? Unfortunately, I think that attitude is dying out with the older generation, but I do feel that those things are still said. For me, growing up in a cult, of course, you're told what you can and can't wear. And you guys only really see me like my face, you don't see my body, but I'm sure you can tell I'm a big girl and I have very big boobs. And the men in charge were able to tell us what we could and couldn't wear. We were told that we were responsible for men leering at us if we were wearing inappropriate things. What do you expect? I remember there's something called a circuit overseer, which is like a travelling person who comes to different areas and talks to people about, that kind of is like one step above the local elders. It's very difficult to explain, but anyway, he was there, and when they're here they do like lots of talks and lots of sermons for us, and he was basically saying that women's bodies are more attractive than men's. Well, he wasn't basically saying, he was saying women's bodies are more attractive to men than the men's bodies are to us, apparently, and that it was our responsibility to not tempt them with our bodies. So that's the kind of speech and talk that I was brought up with. So I would wear the frumpiest of clothes just to make other people feel comfortable. And I think that is one of the biggest issues, is women jump through so many hoops to make men feel comfortable, but so many men will not give us the same level of respect. They will not jump through hoops to make us feel comfortable. So that is a huge issue, I think, and that's one of the main problems. I think as well, one thing I really want to stress is that I think a lot of people feel that there is a particular victim profile as to SA and harassment and assault. And while it's true, there are some people who are more at risk of it because of their build or their look. Predators will feel like they are an easier target. Everybody is at risk. As I've said, I'm a tall girl, I'm 5'8". I'm a big girl, I've got size 8 feet, look at the span, like I am a big girl. I'm not going to be the easiest person to harass or assault. So perhaps that puts me at less risk. But I have been, as I've explained, I have been harassed, I've been assaulted, I've been catcalled, which is crazy, but I've been catcalled, and I think that men who feel like this is just a particular kind of person that's going through this and that's just the way that life is. No, all of us are at risk. All of us face this. And you know, Brandon will tell you, when we first met, I used to leave the door unlocked, like, to my house. I didn't care about all of that. I was very trusting. I'm not entirely sure why, but I was very trusting. Not an easily threatened person, but even I've had times when I've been coming home and I've had to have the key in my hand because I'm worried about who's there, or I've started speeding up because I feel like someone's behind me. And, you know, I don't want to scare people, obviously, and I don't want people to feel like they are at risk all the time and always to be scared, but I do think that it's important to be aware, and it's so wonderful that companies are trying to make people feel safe and comfortable, but it's not enough. An app telling people, sending out a location of where you are or sending off a sound when you feel at risk is potentially not going to do anything to help you. It might just tell people where you were last seen. And, you know, companies saying that people can wait inside their company to wait for someone to come that they feel safe with or to come and pick them up. That's wonderful as well, but why should we have to hide inside because men can't get their shit together? And men saying, oh, not all men, all you're doing is protecting the men that it is. Instead of saying not all men, why don't you say, okay, some men, and I'm going to villainize those ones and make sure that they are shown for what they are, and there is a huge clear separation between the villains and us, rather than making it all about women being hypersensitive. Why don't you make it about women have suffered in silence and suffered with these things for so long, and they're finally saying something, I'm going to listen. So for today's look, I did purple and teal. Those are the colours of anti-violence and domestic violence. I wanted to do something that was fitting to the subject, and I felt that this was the most respectful thing to do. I'm going to leave down in the description some helpful numbers and anonymous lines that you can call if you are in a position where you feel at risk. Just remember to please stay safe as much as you can, but that you can talk about things, and nothing is your fault that happens to you when it comes to harassment and assault. Please feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk about anything, although I would recommend that you please reach out to a professional. There's a lot of bad advice out there. I will make sure that I do some proper research and I put them all down in the description below. But I'm sending everyone so much love. It's such a hard time, particularly with assault and abuse if you're trapped in a situation with the pandemic, but it is coming to an end, and if you do feel that you're trapped, there are so many places that you can turn to talk to, so please never feel like you're alone. And I really hope that this conversation keeps happening, and I hope that we keep making people feel uncomfortable with topics like this, because if it makes people feel uncomfortable, then it needs to be discussed, because violence against women should never be a topic that makes men feel uncomfortable to discuss. It should be something that they want to learn about and they want to improve on. So let's keep having the conversation, and I hope that this video was in some way helpful to someone. Tomorrow is hopefully going to be a bit of a brighter video. I'm going to be doing what I learned Wednesday. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I think it's going to be about fat phobia and body positivity, so we'll see. I'll do another poll and see what you guys want me to talk about. So I appreciate you guys listening and hanging out with me today, and please stay safe, and I love you all lots. Bye.